Well, good afternoon. This is Betty Meredith, President of the Retirement Resource Center, a retirement education and training company for financial professionals, their clients, and consumers. And I'm happy to be your session host today for this webinar, Alternative Investments, the investments that are no longer optional. In the past 10 years, meeting a client's investment goals was fairly easy, with annual returns of 10% and a raging bond market. An advisor could create a 60-40 portfolio for a client and set it and forget it. Those days are gone. Now advisors are dealing with an investment environment where investment grade bonds are returning 2% and domestic equities 10-year expected return is only 6%. How can a client's investment goals be met in the new world of slower growth and lower yield without taking an excessive risk? The answer lies in the use of alternative investments. This webinar will assist advisors in understanding the role of these unique investments in portfolios, as well as how the current economic uncertainty is impacting each asset class. Michelle Connell, CFA, owns Portia Capital Management, a registered investment advisory firm specializing in the investments of foundations, charities, and high net worth individuals. Portia Capital Management is the only investment management firm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to be owned by a female CFA charter holder, an important resource in a world where 60% of women retire in poverty. Michelle's expertise is backed by more than 20 years of financial experience in management positions with large investment boutiques and private banks. Michelle has also differentiated herself as an educator. She taught as an adjunct finance professor at the University of Texas at Dallas for 5 years, where she was named one of the country's highest rated finance professors. Michelle has also taught the CFA Review in Texas for 10 years. She works with her students and clients to understand the value of crafting a portfolio that includes conventional products as well as alternative assets, including private equity, private debt, and real estate, and allows investment portfolio creation with greater downside protection and more consistent returns. And she also founded Portia's Children, through which up to 10% of her company's profits are donated to the North Texas charity Educational First Steps. In today's course, you will learn about each type of alternative investment, including private equity, venture capital, private debt, hedge funds, and real assets. You'll also gain an understanding of the advantages and risks of each type of alternative investment, and you'll discover how the use of these investments can assist clients in meeting their goals and objectives, and also obtain guidance on how to determine client suitability, proper allocation, and monitor performance. All of this while acquiring an understanding of the due diligence process of these investments. So thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us today, and we'll now turn it over to you.
Okay, today I'm going to be speaking on alternative investments, the investments that are no longer optional. When I'm looking at why alternatives are imperative now, we're in a game-changing environment where the expected returns have come down precipitously for equities. In the past 10 years, we are getting gains in the US large cap of 10% plus. Going forward, the next 5 to 10 years, you can expect maybe 5 to 6%. And bonds, U.S. bonds in the core ag space, maybe 2 to 3%. And so we've come to an environment where if you're going to meet distribution goals, as well as stay ahead of inflation, that you're going to have to use some sort of alternative investments to help your clients, meet their obligations and objectives. So in terms of grouping of investments, you have your traditional investment stocks and bonds, and then you have your traditional alternative investments that would include private equity, commodities, and real estate. And then you have your moderate alternative investments, and what fits in those are hedge funds, managed futures, and distressed securities. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how alternatives fit into your portfolio, the type of exposure that they provide you, and how they are unique in terms of the risks that they provide access to, and also in terms of the type of strategies that they provide. Common features that alternative assets have: you have the ability to diversify your portfolio further. They can help you lower your correlation with the traditional investments. And as we found out, especially during the pandemic and with the situation in Ukraine, everything can have a correlation of one in black swan events. So it's important to have some sort of alternative. Also, something that's important to know about alternatives: they can have very high due diligence costs because they're very complex, and they can have low transparency. So you are going to have to spend some time understanding them. Also, sometimes it's really hard to find benchmarks that are appropriate for alternatives. And frequently, alternatives can be illiquid, and so your client should get an additional return premium for that. That being said, there are more alternatives in the current environment that are being made more liquid for clients. Now, what's interesting about this JP Morgan slide is it shows you what alternative investments do to the portfolio. So you can see here by looking at different blends of or allocations between a 60-40 portfolio and also portfolios of 70% equities and 20% bonds. What this slide is pointing out is, as you add alternatives, you are decreasing the volatility of the portfolio, and you can also enhance your return. So we're going to dive deeper into the alternative arena. And again, they include hedge funds, private equity, private credit, commercial real estate, and real assets.